This is Lesson 8, Video Compositing. In this lesson, I'm working with prmLesson08. You can find that on the DVD included with this book. Here, what we have is a sequence named Using the Ultra Key. It has two video tracks. On the lower video track, what we have here is a scene shot in Central Park of a young lady. And above it, we have a shot of the musician Jeff Jacobs shot against a green screen. So the idea here is to remove the green screen so we'll be able to superimpose his video on top of the young lady walking in the park. To do that, we're going to need to perform what's called chroma keying. Chroma keying, or color keying, is designed to remove a specific color from a video frame. Most commonly, these colors are either blue or green, which is why you have blue screens and green screens. Now, the first thing that I'd like to do is remove any part of the green area of the background that he doesn't actually touch. If I scrub through my timeline, you can see that he's moving around a lot, but there are still parts he doesn't touch. For example, his head is never anywhere near the upper left-hand corner of this frame, and really his body isn't anywhere near the lower left-hand corner either. So that could be completely removed from the green screen process by the simple use of a mask. I'm going to switch to my Effects workspace, Window, Workspace, Effects. Just to be safe, I'm going to choose Window Workspace and reset the current workspace, if necessary, returning effects to its default out-of-the-box configuration. The effect I'm looking for is called a garbage matte. Garbage mattes in Premiere Pro come in 4, 8, and 16-point varieties. The number of points gives you that many points of control. So a 4-point matte basically makes a square or a rectangle. An 8-point matte would give you double those points of control so that you can reshape it better. And a 16-point matte is even more, double those points of control. Now, you really can't make a very contoured garbage matte here. It's not what it's for. It's basically a throwaway matte to very rapidly remove anything that you don't need to chroma key. So in this case, an 8-point matte should work fine. I'll just drag it and drop it onto the Jeff Jacobs green screen close-up. And in the Effect Controls panel, I can see I have an 8-point garbage matte. Now click on the effect, and that reveals in the program monitor the 8 points I can control. There's 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and 2 in the middle, top and bottom. So I'm just going to take the upper left and lower left clips and move them in a little bit. Take the middle clip, move it in a bit, and then I want to move him around. I'm going to mute the audio track because I don't want to hear it as I'm scrubbing the playhead. And I have to move it around to see if I ever, right there, I have a point where he crosses over it. So I'm going to make that a little looser. I'll scrub it again. See if he ever crosses over the other points. No, it looks pretty good. It's really important that you make sure that the garbage matte doesn't actually cut out any part of your foreground element, in this case, the singer, that you want to keep. I think I can be a little tighter with the middle and upper points on the matte. Again, I'll scrub through that and see what it does for me. Gotta be a little careful on top, make sure I stay outside of the frame or just on the frame edge. And that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Maybe I could be a little tighter, but this should work fine. Now that I've got the garbage matte, what I'm looking for is the Ultra Keyer. The Ultra Key is the most common technique for removing a green or blue screen in Premiere Pro. I just type the word Ultra in the search field, and I'll drag the Ultra Key onto Jeff Jacobs' green screen close-up again. Now, the Ultra Key is really magical. Sometimes all you gotta do is just click the eyedropper to choose key color, click on green in your image, and sometimes it works beautifully. One button, it's gone. Now, it actually looks pretty good here, but if you notice right over the man's coat, you can see that there's a lighter and darker area. The darker area is because the full green has not been removed from the entire green screen. This green screen was shot where it wasn't lit consistently. Normally when you're trying to shoot a green screen, there's a couple things you want to do. Normally you want to have your performers 7-8 feet away from the screen, if possible. Normally you want to light the performers and then light the screen separately. This allows you to give the screen an even tone. Now, this isn't always possible, but that's the goal. And if you can do it, you'll normally have a very quick time of making a key. If you can't, in this case, you're going to have to adjust some of the settings in the Ultra Keyer. In the Effects Controls panel, I'm going to collapse the options for the 8-point garbage matte to give myself more space to see the Ultra Key. I also don't need to see the mini timeline view in the Effects Controls panel because I'm not animating these properties. So by collapsing it, I can see every option in the Ultra Key very quickly. Now, when you're looking at the program monitor, what you're actually seeing is called the composite output. That's the finished view. I'd like to change that to alpha channel. Now this shows you the alpha, the transparency of this video clip. It shows you the effect after the Ultra Key has been applied. Any area that's fully white, such as the singer's body, that's fully opaque. Any area that's fully black, that's transparent. And any area that's gray, well, that area is semi-transparent. And this area of gray at the lower left-hand corner is why there's a discoloration on that man's jacket and body. Now what I want to do is use matte generation, and this allows me to control the properties of the Ultra Keyer. What the Ultra Keyer does is generates a matte, a transparency matte. And I'm trying to make sure all the areas that were green in the original video footage are black when I look at the alpha. So I'm going to take the pedestal and I'm going to raise it. And as I do, notice that more of those gray areas go away. Okay. I'm going to try about 49. Okay. Oh, that's pretty good. That worked pretty well. I'm going to adjust some more settings. I'm going to take transparency and make it 40. I'm going to leave the highlight and the shadow where it is. And then I'm going to raise the pedestal a little more. And as I do, notice that the gray area in the lower left-hand corner goes away. Like so. Now, if you want to, you can use the other settings, shadows and highlights, adjust the lighter and darker areas of the matte. Go back to 10. So basically what you do is you want to adjust the matte generation settings until you get a matte where you've removed the green screen that you want and you're keeping the areas that you want to keep. So that's your goal. Highlight and shadow. So as you adjust each of the settings, tolerance for example, you're going to change the way the matte is being generated. Let me put that back to 50. And that is your goal. Now keep in mind, it's usually pretty obvious when you make a mistake like this because things look really unusual. Remember that you can always click the reset button to return the Ultra Key effect to its original default configuration. The key color you choose, the area you click on, actually does affect the way the matte will be generated. If I click high on his head, I get a different effect than if I click low in this darker area. So where you click does matter when you're dealing with a matte that has multiple variations of the screen color. And again, that was caused by inconsistent lighting. And if you click in the right area, sometimes it really is just a one-button press. I'm going to confirm that by checking my alpha channel. I'm going to take that pedestal back up. Right there. Again, I'm going to set it to 49. And I'm going to lower the transparency a little bit. So you can play with these settings until you get the effect you want. And it usually works really well. Now, the matte generation properties affect how the key is generated. It affects what areas of the green screen you're removing. I'm going to switch back to my composite effect to look at it. And what you may notice is that the edge of the matte that's being generated may seem a little chattery sometimes, depending on your settings, or it may seem a little smooth. I'm going to collapse the matte generation properties and go to matte cleanup. So after the matte's been created, after it's been generated, matte cleanup allows you to adjust the edge of the matte, the edge of the figure. Choke, for example, allows you to tighten the edge or loosen the edge. So you can use it to tighten, just cut away a little bit from the edge. That's helpful when your matte generation may leave a slight fringe around your foreground element. Soften can be used to blur the edge, and it helps make any chatter, any rough area along the matte less noticeable. Now, so you've got the ability to make the matte that makes the background transparent. You've got the ability to clean it up, and you also have the ability to suppress spill. The color spill is a color fringe that may appear along the edge of the lighter areas of your subject, and usually it's caused by having the subject too close to the green screen. Spill suppression, the third field here, allows you to desaturate the color areas along the edge. I'm just going to raise desaturate to 50. It doesn't actually remove them, it just removes any green fringe that may be in your foreground element. And it uses the key color to figure out what colors need to be removed. One last setting here is color correction. Very often, green screens are shot in a studio, and usually they are. It's the only place you can get where you can have a really large green screen on a wall. And usually, that means that your green screen footage may not match the tonality of anything you shot outside or another environment. So, Ultra Key has a color correction setting. You can use the color correction setting to adjust the tonality and the saturation of colors of your foreground element to make it match your background element. For example, I can lower the luminance, which would make it darker, or I can raise the luminance, which would brighten him up. Okay. I'm going to lower this a little bit, make him a little darker. I'm going to lower the saturation of color just a little bit to match the more washed out colors behind him. You can also use the color correction settings as an aesthetic effect. Maybe you want to make him appear really, really brighter to draw attention to the foreground and distract from something in the background. Entirely up to you. You can use the keying effects for areas they weren't intended for. There are many creative uses of effects, more than simply removing a green screen. Just like if any other effect, it's limited only by your imagination. That looks pretty good. I may think I want to lower his luminance a little bit, make him a little less bright. He's a little distracting. I think that's pretty good for now. So in this video, you've learned how to create a color key. You've learned how to create a garbage matte and edit the points of the garbage matte. You've learned how to apply the Ultra Keyer effect and some of the effects for the Ultra Key that can be used to very quickly remove your green or blue screen background. And in general, you've learned how to composite or combine different video clips together to create a completely new effect.